Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in again tonight. We are broadcasting live. My name is Dr. Stephen Walker. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I'm doing some live streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Mountain Time, where we just talk about mental health. We try to normalize mental health. We talk about what's on our mind. Tonight's topic is how to manage body dysmorphia. Now, some people may know what body dysmorphia is. Some people may not. I posted a story on my webpage about a celebrity who was being just body shamed and made to feel that she just had a child, and people were basically not being too kind about what they were experiencing, what her physical form was looking like. So, hey, Fernando, how are you, man? Thanks for tuning back in. Hope things are moving along with you guys. And again, remember, I start with a topic, but the point of these broadcasts is not for me to talk. The point of the broadcast is to normalize conversations about mental health. So if you want to take me wherever you want to go, if you want to talk about politics, if you want to ask a question about anything you want, I'll always bring it back to a kind of mental health perspective. But this is not just about me making videos and all that. This is about engaging with people who are watching. And we've been having some pretty good lively conversations with people about, hey, Angie, how are you? About different aspects of mental health. And, people are really, I'm just hoping that, these are very difficult times for people. And if there's an outlet where, 2 or 3 times a week, we can get on and talk about what's on our mind. It helps alleviate some of the anxiety and stress. So let's talk a little bit about body dysmorphia. Again, at any point, please ask a question or make a comment. This is not about me just talking. This is about, if something's on your mind, let's talk about it. So what is body dysmorphia? So body dysmorphia, just generally speaking, is the idea that you see yourself fatter, skinnier, uglier, whatever it may be, than the actual, the way the public might see you. So somebody who struggles with a weight issue might think, oh my God, I'm still too overweight. Or somebody who's underweight might think they're overweight, or the other way around. Or somebody may think they're uglier because of something that they went through when they were kids. So that brings up the first key point about body dysmorphia. Most body dysmorphia. So SW from Twitter is chiming in saying body dysmorphia. I think I have this. I compare myself to everyone. Excellent. That is definitely a form of body dysmorphia. Now remember, some people have body dysmorphic disorder where they fit into all the neat categories of what a disorder may be. Other people have degrees of body dysmorphia. Okay. Remember, my take on mental illness is that we all have a degree of mental illness, everyone, myself included, but you've got to work on whatever degree you have. So SW, when you compare yourself to everyone, what are you comparing? What I'm guessing is that you're comparing yourself in a negative way. You're not saying, "Oh, I'm so much better, or better, or better looking, or I'm the perfect way to no one else is." You're probably putting yourself down, which is one of the key things about body dysmorphia. You have a really negative relationship with your body. You guys always hear me talking about working on your relationship with yourself. Well, that's one angle, but the other angle is the way our culture really pushes people into hating the way they look because they don't fit a standard model. I know when I was in my 20s and I started losing my hair, I went through a very depressing period because I loved my hair, and I immediately assumed that nobody was going to want to be with somebody who's in their 20s losing weight. And of course, I had all kinds of guy-oriented friends. I don't know if women do this, but guys will just find your insecurity. And I was called Stevie Hair Weavy and Chia Head and Chrome Dome and all these things, which just fed into my view of myself being unattractive, unworthy of a relationship. And I got depressed. I worked on that subsequently, so I was able to manage it. But body dysmorphia Think of the word dysmorphia. So dysmorphic, anything with the word dysmorphia in it means you're experiencing negative feelings about yourself. Okay. So body dysmorphia is you don't like your body. You don't like being in your body. You think you're ugly. You think you're too fat. You think you're too short. You think your legs are too skinny. Men have this too. It's not just women. A lot of bodybuilders suffer from body dysmorphia. They constantly think they're skinnier or not built enough or whatever it may be. So, how you doing, Mike? Does it count when you hit 60 years of age and don't recognize the person in the mirror? Of course it counts. That's exactly what it counts. That's exactly what body dysmorphia is. You're looking in the mirror and you're like, oh man, what's happened to me? What happened to my beautiful curly hair? Or why aren't my teeth perfect? Or why do I have skin blemishes? And what we do is we hyper focus on those things about us that we don't like. And then we assume that that's how people see us. So somebody with a classic amount of a classic body dysmorphic thing, they'll have eating disorders. They'll purge or they'll binge and then purge. But I've worked with many, many people with body dysmorphia. Every single person I've worked with has some sort of trauma in their past. So SW is saying, I even found myself distancing myself from my husband. He has lost weight recently. You know, what I would get into, SW, if I was working with you, I'm going to get back to you too, Mike, but SW was the first to ask a question. So again, guys, remember, if you're the first time viewer, if you're watching this, if you're catching this online, this is about you guys asking questions. And I want to attend to something that somebody posted because I want to give an example of what good interactions with me is like. But I'll get back to that in a second. So SW, what I would ask you is, when you distance yourself from your husband because he's lost weight, are you telling him that? Are you telling him, hey, look, I'm distancing myself from you? Then you have to get into what is going on with me. So does SW, again, and remember, I've never seen you on here before, but if I say something and I'm wrong, keep it to yourself because I'm the expert. No, I'm kidding. Tell me that I'm off base because I don't want to go off thinking I'm helping you and then find out I'm just completely, wrong. So what I'm thinking, SW, is maybe this body shape, overweight all my life is something that is rooted in something that happened to you as a kid. I don't know if you were teased. I don't know if you had a father. I'm working with an individual right now who the person's father would say the most horrible things to her about her weight, literally calling her a slob and calling her these things as a way to, I would imagine, to motivate her, but it had the opposite effect. Okay, SW saying, I've tried to tell him I'm quite open with him about my mental status. Beautiful. I hope he's open with you too. So when you guys are talking about you distancing yourself from him, you've got to get into what you're feeling about yourself. Meaning if you're feeling unattractive, bullied entire childhood because of weight, okay, there you go. There's the trouble. Hey, Janie, how are you? Nice to have you back. Janie's been working a lot. Janie's on the front lines of working with the COVID hoax. Anyway, kidding. But so great to see you back, Janie. So yeah, SW, you've been bullied your entire life, and I'm guessing that you bully yourself. One of the things about people who are bullied is they bully themselves. I know, like I said before, personally what that felt like. Personally what it felt like to be bullied and teased and be not so much bullied, but just teased and put down and mocked and ridiculed. Definitely know what that's like. You carry those wounds with you, SW. You got to work on that. I don't know if you've ever talked some of this out with somebody like me. Again, I'm not saying me, I'm saying someone like me in this field. But the thing about bullying is it's an ongoing traumatic event, meaning that SW is probably, I do bully myself about so many things. Okay, there you go. Now you're getting into it. Remember, I've never seen you here before, SW. So one of the things I talk about on these live streams is the it's okay pill. You've got to say to yourself, it's okay how I feel. It's okay that I bully myself. It's okay that I think I'm not good enough. You've got to work on that fundamental relationship with you, because SW, if you haven't worked through some of that trauma, then you're going to feel that on multiple different levels, meaning that you're going to feel that you're never good enough to yourself. So nothing you can do is going to ever be good enough. And then you're going to say things to yourself like, oh, you're so pathetic. You're never good enough. You're never going to amount to anything. You're lucky to even have a husband. I mean, he's probably going to leave you. People say the most vile things to themselves. Again, guys, if you're watching this, please share this. Remember, working on your mental illness. We all have a degree of mental illness, myself included. I am not one of these people who, oh, I'm perfectly put together and I've got everything worked out. I'm the golf pro on the range working on my swing. Okay. I didn't do a lot of this work early on. So I'm in some ways, I'm still healing some of the stuff I went through. But the self-hate that I used to put upon myself is like a whisper at this point. I feel it, I hear it sometimes, but it doesn't affect me the way it did. Why? Because I've questioned a lot of that conditioning that I worked with, or that I was put upon, and I worked on myself. That's my entire internal dialogue. So just so people think I'm not, making this stuff up, here's her text. So, but what we need to work on is your ability to reshape your relationship with yourself. Okay. Your relationship with yourself has got to be worked on, SW. You've got to look at it like you got a toothache, or your knees hurting, or you got sharp pains. Oh man. Or when you go to the bathroom, your diarrhea, you got diarrhea. You got to look at it the same exact way, SW, because what you're doing is you're basically playing out conditioning over and over and over upon yourself. And that's causing you to see yourself as uglier than you actually are, or fatter, or undesirable. All that bullying has become kind of your self-identity, but it's not your self-identity. See, that's the thing about conditioning. It masquerades as our true self. And then we continue. Think about it like racism. And I've said this before. I've got a 4-year-old son, not a racist bone in his body. In fact, quite the opposite. Very much of the running for office type of kid. When he goes out, he's talking to people, hello. But now if I tell him, he talks to a black person or a white person, and I tell him, don't you ever do that. Black people or white people are beneath you. What's he going to start believing? And then if I continue perpetuating that, he's going to think as he gets older, I'm a racist. That's who I am. Unbeknownst to him is its conditioning. So SW, you got to work on your relationship with yourselves. Thanks, Fernando. I'm going to get to your question in a second. I'm going to go back to Mike's one in a minute. But good. This is what these live streams are about, guys, is asking me questions, engaging with me. Okay. I'm not going to just post videos and be like every other talking head that's just, I'm so wonderful, like my page so I don't have to work. It's not what it's about. I want people to understand that working on your mental illness is just as important as working on any physical illness you have. Great. I'm going to make an appointment this week. You're welcome. So SW, please check back with us. Let us know, but start tonight. Look in the mirror. Say to yourself, I'm sorry that I've been treating you this way. I'm sorry. I'm going to work on this. You're not an ugly person. You're not a despicable person. I'm not going to let those bullies make me bully myself. Start tonight. Look in the mirror and say that to yourself. Okay, SW, remember, your husband is lucky to have you. You're lucky to have him. You are not beneath him just because you have weight issues. You've got to take the it's okay pill over and over and over. What is the it's okay pill? It's okay. I don't know how old you are, but I'm going to just say, let's say you're 33. It's okay that this is me at 33. It's okay. It's okay that I still have these emotional wounds, but I'm going to work on them. I'm not going to go into my mid to late 30s and 40s and wherever you are. I'm going to work on them. Okay, SW. So thank you for sharing. This is exactly what these broadcasts are for. Please share this. There is nothing wrong. SW has a degree of mental illness. What's the mental illness? Trauma from her past. It's an illness because it's causing her dysmorphia, meaning it's causing her negative feelings. There's a thing in psychology called internal locus of control and external locus of control. When you're too externally localized, you're waiting for the whole world to tell me, "Oh, I'm so wonderful," or "I'm you're the perfect weight," or This is what happens when we get traumatized. We develop an external locus of control, meaning my sense of self, my sense of being able to feel good about myself is externally localized. Guys, we got to challenge these beliefs. We have to. As a psychologist, man, I'm looking around at the world wondering, when are we going to be beyond some of this crap that we do? And it's all conditioned beliefs that are going undisputed and unchallenged within us. Okay, so thanks, SW. Appreciate you sharing. Let me get back to Mike here again, just so that people get that. This is a live thing. This is the question I've been asked. Does it count when you hit 60 years of age and I didn't recognize the same person in the mirror? Absolutely, brother. That is, like I said before, that is absolutely a form of body dysmorphia, because what Mike is doing is Mike is looking at himself in the mirror going, oh man, what's happened to me? And dude, I'm 55. So I feel you, man. I feel you, but you've got to look in the mirror and be aware as you're looking in the mirror, like, why am I even saying that to myself? Why I wouldn't say that to a friend of mine. I wouldn't want a 60-year-old friend of mine to say to himself, geez, man, what does the matter with you? I don't even recognize you anymore. So Mike, what I would ask you, if you're still on, brother, is has this always been? I mean, is it really just when you're 60? Or have you always been kind of hard on yourself, kind of put yourself down, always feel like you're never good enough? So what I'm sensing is that either, this is new, or you hit 60. Well, again, Mike, if I was working with you, we'd get into that. I'd ask you, well, what is it about being 60 that is so bad? Is it just you degenerate? You're not working out. You've lost your hair. You're not that young, virile person anymore. But the bottom line is, yes, body dysmorphia comes in all different flavors. Okay, there's some people that have it really bad, where they are just, they're losing more and more weight. They get hopeless. They feel like they're never good enough, and that leads to more and more hopelessness. And yes, tragically, it can lead to suicide on a more extreme level. Most people have it in the form of just this sort of, Mike is saying always. Okay, so again, thank you. He's always struggled with this. Well, Mike, then it sounds like you went through some sort of trauma as a kid, where I don't know if you were abused by your parents, or if you were bullied, or if you had, older brothers or older sisters that made you feel like you were never good enough. But it's really time, Mike, for you to say to yourself, look, this is BS. This is BS. I don't want to have this into my 70s. Mike, let me ask you something, man. What have you done to deserve self-hate? What have you done? I mean, what have you done to hate yourself, to be this mean to yourself? Now, I don't know, maybe you're doing things that you're not proud of. Maybe there's some other issues that you haven't worked through, but you've got to start fundamentally I'm going to get to you, Fernando. You've got to start fundamentally questioning Mike's relationship with Mike. Mike has to start asking himself, what is up with this? Why am I hating myself like this? Why am I doing this to myself when I don't need to? You gotta, okay, see, there you go again. I mean, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And Mike and I have never met. Criticism, father, ex-spouse. So Mike has been in a position where he's been constantly criticized. Maybe he had it sounds like you had a domineering father, and then maybe your ex-spouse was, I don't know, just gotcha. Yeah. So Mike, but see, that's trauma, brother. And Mike, as you know, I'm a guy, you're a guy. Men don't like to admit we're hurting. Men do not like to admit we're hurting. And that is one of the fundamental issues that body dysmorphia feeds on, is unhealed emotional wounds. And if Mike, if you had a domineering father, and a father who didn't either tell you he loved you, or you were always okay, bingo. A father who was never, I don't know, maybe he drank or whatever. That's trauma, brother. That's trauma. That's why you're at 60, looking in the mirror like, geez, man, who the hell is this? Bro, don't buy into this idea that you can never teach old dogs new tricks. You're not old and you're not a dog. You can work on this. You can start, pick up some books on self-compassion, find a counselor, find someone in the field that you can work out and talk this stuff out. This stuff has been sitting in you for too long without any work. The thing about body dysmorphia is whatever relationship you have with yourself, you project that outward onto other people. So if I hate my bald head, then I am going to assume that everybody who sees me hates my bald head. Then I'm going to react out of that and be defensive, or I'm going to be like, whoa, I don't want to, Mike, you got to start looking at the belief system, brother. Something drew you here tonight. Tonight, you can take the first step by looking in the mirror, like I was saying to SW, and just saying things to yourself like, no, you know what? No, I'm not going to treat myself like this. I'm a good person. And I'm not talking about Al Franken, oh, you're so special and talking to yourself like that. No, man, talk to yourself the way you would talk to someone else. I've been saying this for years. Your relationship with yourself should be the number one relationship in your life. And some people say, well, no, God is my, that's fine. But if you hate yourself, I don't know what kind of relationship you're going to have with God, being that we're made in God's image. Okay. So thanks, Janie. Janie's giving Mike a little bit of encouragement. Yes. But Mike's got to start doing that from within him. Mike, if there are things that you've done that you're ashamed of, or if you have, I don't know, sexuality issues or whatever, if your ex-spouse made you feel like, no one's ever going to love me again, you got to work on that, bro, because that is literally like having a wound. I was talking about, I had a little cut on my hand and it wasn't healing because I kept banging into it. This is what we do with our emotional wounds. We bang into them and we never heal them. Thanks, Mike. I'm glad that you're resonating with it, bro. But Mike, you gotta, what you just said to me, you gotta start with that encouragement with yourself. Okay, Mike, because there's a Mike inside of you. And I know people say, oh, that inner child is just such nonsense and such a caricature of whatever. I used to believe that until I went into this field. And that whole inner child thing is huge. Okay. I call it, and I've got a domain name that feeds to one of my websites. I say inner child abuse. We do inner child abuse all the time. Innerchildabuse.com will take you to my website. Mike, you got to stop abusing and bullying that little kid inside of you. You got to connect with that little kid. He's alive and well in you, and he needs you to connect with him. All right. So yeah, man, we're on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Let me know how things go. So I always refer people to Psychology Today. If you type in Psychology Today Therapist Finder, you can find, hey, Severina, how are you? Thanks for logging on. You can find therapists, counselors in your area. Find one that you feel you can resonate with, bro, and talk some of this out. Most of this is covered by insurance. Most of it you can use your insurance benefits for. But the main thing I would encourage you to do, Mike, is you got to accept, wow, really, I do have some trauma from my past. It's still affecting me, and that's okay. Please share this if you're watching this. So I want to get to a question that was sent to me, which is the reason I'm actually doing this, because the person suggested. So the question is, I have an eating disorder. I have been starving myself and also have an alcohol problem. I used to be overweight and lost a lot of weight from this unhealthy lifestyle. These two traumas that I have are related to this. Are my best friend dying, as well as growing up in a hoarder's home. Wow. And never getting any attention. I don't know where to go from here. I know ultimately I need to see some sort of professional mental health treatment. Also, I'm going to be able to reply because I'm at work. Great. Okay, beautiful. This person asked me to keep his name anonymous, so I will gladly do that. Let me just finish up with Mike here. Mike is saying, I don't deserve abuse, especially from myself. Beautiful. That's the first step, brother, is you got to start being aware of that. You got to start being aware that I don't deserve abuse. I don't. And you've got to remind yourself that this is learned behavior. Okay, I learned to this. So this is the first step, Mike, is it doesn't have to be, all flowery and, oh, I love myself and everything's wonderful. Everything ain't wonderful. Okay, remember, there's positive, negative, and neutral emotion. You got to deal with all three of them. But Mike, yes, You've got to start saying, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this abuse. Okay. And guys, if you're watching this, please share this, please. Okay. We've got to make conversations about mental health and mental illness, just like you're talking about your car, you're talking about your knee, you're talking about anything else. Okay. Look at Mike as an example. Mike could easily hold all this stuff in, get more depressed, and have the next 20, 30 years of his life be why? Why? Because you don't want to admit that you're hurting and you don't want to find help. Find the help, people. Okay. I don't even know if I'd be here if I hadn't worked on myself and some of the crap I went through. So anyway, so let's get back to this gentleman's question. So yes, so it sounds like I'm just going to call you, I'll just call you Anonymous. So Anonymous, you've got to work on these traumas. Absolutely. You are well enough aware that these two traumas are affecting you and affecting the way you feel. You've got to start. I'm going to get to you. I haven't forgotten about you, Fernando. And again, please ask any questions. If you want to go off topic, somebody asked me if we talk about astrology and healing and all that. Absolutely. You want to talk about politics? This is not, I can always tie it back into mental health. But yes, Anonymous, you need to work and seek out some professional mental health treatment. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because, bro, if you had a toothache that wasn't going away, you would seek out professional dental health treatment without even remotely being ashamed of it, okay? There is nothing wrong with seeking out professional mental health treatment because the options are this. You, Anonymous, you stay with all of this trauma. Growing up in a hoarder's house? Let's talk about that for 30 seconds. How many friends did you like coming over? How often did you feel ashamed of your family? How often did people tease you about that? How often did you live in fear that somebody was going to come by your house? How often did you live in conditions with rats or mice or whatever, with a mother or whoever was doing the hoarding that was constantly in this crazy kind of mental illness untreated? I don't know. So yes, bro, that is all trauma in you that needs to be worked out. Heatherella is saying, oh yeah, hey Heatherella, you're back. I promise that working through trauma is so worth it. Beautiful, absolutely. You gotta work through the trauma. You gotta get out of this, almost cursed, but some feedback I've received is to not curse, so I'm always open to feedback. So this BS about there's something wrong with you. You've got to let it go. You got to just stop focusing on the negative. Look, the people who are telling you to let go of your trauma and just get over it don't know how to help you work through it. So their default is, oh, just, be your best self. And look, good advice, but the problem is you got to accept the negative. So yes, this is the first step. So what I would recommend for you, Anonymous, is you have got to start saying to yourself, everything you just said to me. Yeah, I got these traumas. Yeah, all that hoarding stuff I went through. Absolutely. I need to get some help, and it's okay. And I can get the help and I can work through it. People seem to think, and a lot of it has to do with a lot of this old school therapists and this old school psychologists and this idea that, you just sit there and you got somebody like, well, how does that make you feel? Time's up. Bye. Yeah, that's so old school and so friggin' ridiculous. It makes me sick because what that taught people was you just go to somewhere, you talk, you do all the talking, you don't get much feedback, you can't contact the person off after hours. My client patients text me. We text a lot. I do a lot of back and forth. I am invested. I want people to heal. I'm the sole financial provider for my family, but that's not why I'm doing this. I used to have a pretty lucrative career in business in my 20s and late 20s and early 30s, and I left it all behind me to do something with my life that I felt was meaningful and would help people. So you've got to begin accepting that your mental illness needs to be worked on. And it sounds like the Anonymous here is ready for that, is ready to start working on it. You've lost some weight. You got to work on, when you say you have an eating disorder and you're starving yourself, you got to ask yourself, why am I starving yourself? And you know why you're starving yourself, right, Anonymous? You don't want to be overweight again. You do not want to be overweight again. And that fear keeps you in this body dysmorphic idea that you can need to constantly lose weight. Now, of course, being obese, being morbidly obese is a health issue. It affects your body in a negative way. But when you have an eating disorder, and I don't know what you mean by eating disorder. I don't know if that means you're restricting calories, if you're purging, I don't know what it is. But what me and this individual have exchanged some messages. You've got a really good level of self-awareness, meaning that you're aware of these issues. You're aware of what's affecting you. What I would ask you is, what's stopping you? What's stopping you from tonight finding a therapist online or wherever and working through some of this? Is there some stigma or some shame you feel that you shouldn't need to do this work? You shouldn't need to get this work, or maybe you feel it can't be healed. Let me tell you something, people. And I'm going to do some more. I'm about to release a book on healing and all this, but part of what keeps people stuck is the false belief that that none of this can heal. None of this can be worked on. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Okay. That couldn't be further from the truth. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. I don't know if you guys remember Joe Theismann when Lawrence Taylor broke his leg on Monday Night Football. He walks again, he plays golf, but he never played football again. When you have severe emotional trauma that isn't worked on, it festers in you like a wound. So it takes time to clean that wound out. It takes time to heal that. There's no easy way. But what you've got going for you, Anonymous, here is you really seem motivated, man. You were telling me that, you're talking about this live stream, you're getting into this idea. This is the first step, is you've got to really begin pushing yourself into the belief system that this can heal. I can get some relief from this. I guarantee you, brother, you can. I'm not saying you're never going to be plagued by it. I'm not saying that, not plagued, but you're never going to be affected by it and thinking about it. But absolutely, it can heal. We need like armies of people on this planet questioning their belief system. Why am I a racist? Why am I a sexist? I mean, why am I hating all these libtards? Or why am I hating these Trumpers? I mean, what's going on? I mean, if we continue hating each other as a country, where are we leading to? Why am I just buying stuff all the time? Why do I hate so much? Why do I drink so much? We need to question our belief system. I mean, the crap that passes for self-identity now is just staggering, that we as a species haven't evolved past things like hate. But again, you know why? Because we haven't worked it through in ourselves. This person who's talking, who actually gave me the idea for the, and by the way, if anybody's watching and you have ideas for topics, please send them to me. Okay. I want this to be very user-friendly, but the person who sent me this is motivated to start doing this work. I can feel it, but you got to just push yourself into it and start working on it. One of the things that people believe is this idea that if they start talking about it, it's going to consume them. I call it the Humpty Dumpty effect or syndrome, meaning that they're going to fall apart and never reconstitute. Couldn't be further from the truth, guys. You will go through a period where things are stirred up. But if you're doing the work and somebody's helping you through it and helping you, not overly exposing you to things too quickly, dosing the exposure, as I call it, you can slowly become acclimated and work through it and let an alternate belief system, which is, maybe I can begin to be like, let me ask if you're still listening. When's the last time you said to yourself, I'm proud of you for losing all that weight? When's the last time you said that? When's the last time you actually coached yourself like you would somebody, a friend of yours who's lost the weight? Okay, you got to keep moving forward. Body dysmorphia is rooted in trauma and is kept alive or kept going by unhealed emotional wounds. And unhealed emotional wounds is why we see the carnage we see not only in our country, but all over the world. People adopt a belief system and they don't question it. They don't stop in the moment and go, well, wait a minute. Why am I, like I always call it, why am I the way that I am? Why am I the way why do I think like this? Why do I feel this way? I mean, look at what's happening politically. That's a whole nother conversation. So to close up, to get to Fernando, yes, Anonymous, keep moving forward. You've got to work on the trauma. You got to seek out some professional mental health. Use those benefits. If you can't, work out an amount you can maybe take from other things you're spending and invest in your healing, because I guarantee you can get some relief from this. Okay. So thanks for the idea. Let me get to Fernando here. Fernando and his wife have been dealing with some extended family stuff. So Fernando's saying, I'm a teacher and I've seen that some parents expect their kids to dress a certain way and act a certain way. Does that lead to a negative body image? Absolutely. What would you say to parents who want to protect their children but don't know how to bring it up to their kids? And it sounds like shaming. So what would you say to parents who want to protect their children but don't know how to bring it up to their kids? And it sounds like shaming. Okay, I gotcha. So first part of the question, absolutely. Absolutely. Where do you think those kids are learning that they need to dress a certain way, guys? Where do you think they're picking up this idea that clothes are so important and we got to have this fashion trend and that fashion trend and we've got to have the latest designer things? Where do you think they're picking that up? Who's buying them the clothes? Who's buying the clothes for them? I mean, it's modeling. So absolutely it can lead to a negative body image if they always feel that because if they don't have the latest fashionable clothes, that they're somehow beneath people. Guys, look, I'm trying not to preach too much here, but fashion, the pursuit of fashion, I mean, I'm not saying let's walk around in burlap bags and whatever, but come on. People's whose entire life is based on what they're wearing and the latest fashion trends. I mean, and people wonder why we're not evolving as a culture. I'm not saying that it's all bad. I'm not saying media and parents, right? I'm not, Mike, thank you. I'm not saying that we should, abolish all fashion, but come on. We're teaching kids that if they don't have Air Jordans or whatever the latest fashion trend is, I mean, come on. Of course, we're pressuring them. So what would I say to parents who want to protect their children but don't know how to bring it up? Start talking to them about it. Start talking to them about it and say, Billy, Bobby, Janie, you don't need to get your self-identity from what you wear. You just because everyone else is doing it. And people would say, oh, kids aren't going to grasp that. Trust me, kids will grasp that. I was a teacher before I went into mental health. I work with kids. I've worked with kids as young as 4 or 5 who have this amazing self-awareness. Start tapping into that. Get them to question the idea that they're not good if they don't have the latest fashion. Get them to start asking themselves, why do you care so much what Janie thinks about your shirt? Why? And get them talking about their feelings. Get your children used to talking about how they feel. Sit them down and start, why are you so depressed? What's going on? What's happened? Why do you care so much that I'm not talking about dress your kids in crap and hand-me-downs. I'm not talking about that. But why do kids need multiple forms of fashion? Why? Guess who they're learning it from? So what I would say in your case, Fernando, is, yeah, right, Kardashians, yeah. And they have millions and millions of followers. And look, I all I'm saying is if I got to sound the alarm. We need to question our belief system more. We need to question what we're feeding kids. We've got to get kids to question the idea of why do they do what they do. If you feel, if you feel that you've taught your kids something wrong or you've set a bad example, own it. Own it. Oh, Billy, Daddy probably shouldn't be telling you, I know you see Daddy buying, 10 pairs of sneakers, but, that's really not, you don't need to do that. In fact, I think, why don't we give some of these away? We've got a standing rule in our house. Whenever we buy some toys, we put toys in another box to give away. And this darn COVID-19, I wanted to bring my son to homeless shelters, but I can't do that now. But anyway, the idea is, talk to your kids. If you're worried about seeing some behavior with your kids that is overly materialistic, nip that crap in the bud, because I'm telling you, that will come back to haunt you as they get older. Okay. So thanks, Fernando. Thanks for the question. I also want to see if you guys are pushing forward with what we worked on the other night and getting some relief there. So, let's see here. Janie's saying, what if you aren't sure which trauma is linked to body dysmorphia? How do you really address it? Excellent. That is a beautiful question, okay? Because Janie, what I will tell you is, if you were my patient and walked into my office and asked me that question, you should ask your counselor or therapist that question, okay? You got to go into, you're welcome, Fernando. Thanks for logging on. You've got to go into your counseling therapy sessions with an agenda. I want to figure out what part of my trauma is tied to my dysmorphia. So just from your question, I would say to you, Janie, you've got to, in your own mind, think, okay, well, wait a minute. If I think I'm too fat, or if I think I'm too skinny, and I'm using fat in a colloquial way, I apologize for that. If I think I'm overweight, or if I think my feet are too big, where is that coming out of? Where did I learn that I was overweight, or that I should be ashamed of being overweight? This is when, oh wow, feather, sorry. Well, this is when we begin doing some of that detective work. Like I've talked about some of my issues growing up, which was centered around the fact that I'm not biracial. My grandfather's Black, but because in my family, race was a taboo subject. Nobody wanted to talk about it, and nobody wanted to get into it. I grew up with this shame. People would ask me, well, do you have Black in you? I'm like, well, what do you mean? And I grew up with this until I worked through some of that. And now I'm perfectly comfortable talking about my mixed ethnicity with pride, because I know what that's like. But that caused me so many years of self-hate, so many years of unneeded shame. Why? Because what was given to me, the fact that there were certain members in my family who never got comfortable with my father's mixed ethnicity. So they put that onto me, and I had to finally work through that. So Janie, you've got to work through what part of my trauma is making me hate my body, or making me feel that I'm this or that. And you've talked about some of the abuse you went through in a past relationship. That is probably still affecting you too. And like I've talked with you, Janie, in some of these other broadcasts, you got to keep making it okay that you're still struggling with this. You've got to make it okay. And Janie recently, unfortunately, lost her dad, who was a big emotional support for her. So, but you've got to get into a situation where you talk things out. But again, Janie, I know that you work in a hospital dealing with all the coronavirus trauma. So you probably get home and you're like, I don't want to talk about anything. And I feel you. Okay, I feel you. But you got to figure out a way to keep getting into this trauma, Janie. You got to work on that, okay? Because something about your trauma, which trauma, so I think you're still on. So here's a question for you, Janie, and then I'll go to another question and then come back to you. Which trauma do you think is linked to your body dysmorphia? Which trauma do you think is linked to your body dysmorphia? How do you really address it? You talk about it. You get into it. My little catchphrase here is, you got to feel it to heal it. That's exactly what we do as mental health people. We therapeutically help people feel things in a very systematic way, and then we help them heal it. But part of how you address it is you begin talking about it. You begin feeling it. Okay, so why don't you see if you're still on, answer that question about which trauma do you think is linked to your dysmorphia. So we're going to get quickly to Severina, and then I want to just talk about an exchange I had with somebody online. I hit the only because I want to just illustrate how people need to talk to themselves. Okay, so she's saying, I was sexually molested by my grandfather at 4 years old. Wow, that's that's some heavy duty trauma there, Janie. And I appreciate you sharing that, but I don't know how much you've worked on that. I don't know how that affected you, your family. I don't know if it was ever reported. I don't know how guilty you feel about even telling people about it, because maybe he occupied that role of grandpa and you didn't feel like you wanted to tarnish that. But I don't know what degree of sexual molestation you're talking about. I don't know if there was actually, genital penetration with his penis. I don't know if it was just, he was touching you, but whatever it is, you got to talk about it. And somebody might be looking at it and be like, damn, what did he just say? But that's the work. That's the work. Okay. The work is normalizing, talking it out, making it something that you can talk about and get feedback so you can process it. If you're just joining us, we're talking about mental illness. We're dealing with issues. We are starting a group, a community, just an ongoing chat about how important it is to talk about mental illness. Today's broadcast is about, I say too much, I know, but it's a filler to gaps in my thinking, how to manage body dysmorphia. So if you have a question about that, please, I'll be on for about 10 more minutes. So Janie's saying it happened once and my dad told me to never come back. Wow. It happened once and my dad told him to never come back. Wow. So then you probably had some guilt again about breaking up the family or making your grandfather never able to come back, or whatever a child is telling herself about blaming herself for being molested. These are the things you got to openly talk about more. Okay. You've got to get yourself into a situation where you can talk about it. I know you've talked about how it helps to just be on here and typing some of this out, but just imagine as you get into a place where you can talk about it. Okay. Just imagine as you get more comfortable talking about what that poor little girl was going through. I don't know if your dad helped you with it. I don't know. I mean, I know your dad recently passed away, so I don't want to do anything that would entail blaming him, but why didn't anyone get you any help? Why, when you reported this to the family, didn't people, maybe they didn't need to, confront your grandfather, but they should have gotten you into a place where you could talk about it. Okay. But Janie, the key, like we've talked before, is you've got to believe that at whatever age you are, you can still heal. You can still work on this, but you've got to talk it out. Okay, so thank you for sharing. Feel free to keep posting and I'll come back. Let's get to Severina. I hit the ground on how I feel when someone asks me to go out. I don't want them to see me because I am fat, and I am sure they want to invite me or y'all to take me anymore, to talk, invite me or y'all to me anymore, or yell at me or holler at me anymore. I think the only thing I see when I look in the mirror is a fat, ugly person, and I wish to have money so I can fix my body. I do try to lose pounds, but it does not work. I've been avoiding a friend because of what I'm really planning to stop talking to him. I'm tired of people thinking that I'm still in good shape. Well, yeah, Richard, thanks for logging on. I've been telling everyone that I want to get to what you and I talked about today. But don't log off. I'm glad you're on because I want to get to our talk earlier today. So, but Severina, yeah, sister, you got to work on this hatred of being overweight. Okay. You've got to work on how you're relating to yourself with whatever pounds you've got, because you've got to begin accepting that this is your weight. Now, I'm not saying accept it and not do anything about it, but the you hating yourself for being overweight is causing you to not work on it, because hate is such a destabilizing. Think about hate for a minute. Think about how corrosive hate is. I don't know how many people out there are actually followers of people who advocate hate, like Hitler and Mussolini and other people who actually use hate as a divisive way or as a way to get followers or whatever. Hate of self is even more destructive, because now what you're doing is you're hating yourself, and there's no release valve. There's no part of you that's able to manage that. So I'm going to do maybe this week, and I'm going to have some guests on. I have a psychologist colleague that's going to come on and talk about social media and how all that's been affecting our culture, I think on Wednesday or Friday. But self-hate, Severina, the self-hate you're giving yourself is causing you to be demotivated. The hate. Now, I'm not saying to love that you're overweight, but remember, positive, negative, and neutral. Neutrality is accessed by saying to yourself, it's okay that I'm overweight. It's okay that I have these pounds, but I'm going to work on it. That is what's causing you to feel as though you can't work on this, okay? That is what's causing you to feel that you're not able to get past this. It's you hating yourself. And a lot of this, I think, is stemming out of your previous relationship. Okay, you talked about at the end. You've got a friend and you're planning on stop talking to him because you think he thinks you're still in good shape. Who cares what he thinks? You got to get into thinking, why do I care so much what he thinks? I'm not going to guarantee what I'm about to say to you, Severina, but I can almost guarantee it. You're projecting your relationship with your ex onto men, onto future people. You're expecting whoever this guy is who thinks you're in shape to either put you down or to be like recoiled because you're overweight. You've got to get into that, Severina. We've talked about this. You've got to start talking some of this out. Please get in front of the mirror tonight and soothe yourself. Talk to yourself the way you would talk to a girlfriend, the way you would talk to your daughter. If your daughter was overweight, would you tell her, oh, well, you better break off that friendship you have because he's going to negatively judge you? Would you talk to her like that? Of course you wouldn't. So you've got to work on why you're talking to yourself that way. And I feel you. I feel you. I mean, you want to get out dating, but you have this really negative view of yourself. You don't feel it's going to change. You think every guy's going to look at you like, oh my God, man. Well, not every guy's like that. Okay. Most guys are not like that. You've got to work on the pessimism, pessimistically thinking that you're never going to meet somebody else because of the trauma you went through. So let me just get to Richard. So Richard and I had some exchanges. I don't know if you saw my post about Jamie Foxx. So I posted this about Jamie Foxx. I said, shame on you, Jamie Foxx, or shame on Jamie Foxx for pushing a gambling app during such economic instability. He is only contributing to more mental illness and family discord. I know money is king to most people, but I also don't understand how celebrities can promote alcohol companies when it's clear that addiction is a public catastrophe. So Richard brought up some good points. He asked me, if my God, do I feel that it's in my job description to shame or judge someone? Great questions. Now, I'm not going to necessarily get into I can a little bit, but the main thing I want to highlight, Richard and I were able to exchange contrasting ideas about things without a single name call, without a single put down, and without anything where it was like you this or you that. So this is what I encourage people to do when you engage with me, because if you don't, I'm either going to block you from the page or I'm going to go right back at you. So if Richard had come at me with very insulting, I would have probably come back at him with what he was giving me, but he didn't. So, do you agree that the prison within is far more oppressive than any amount of concrete or steel? When do you think psychological interrogations actually turn into mental torture or abuse? And Richard has talked about some stuff he went through in the military. So do I agree that the prison within is far more oppressive than any amount of concrete or steel? Amen, brother. We would have never had that. You'd have never come up with that brilliant insight. And then Fernando chimed in and said something I want to read too. But yes, absolutely. We keep ourselves imprisoned by our conditioning and our trauma. And if you have both in a negative way, it's even more, but absolutely. And people need to work on their damn issues. There is nothing wrong with having issues, Richard. If you feel that some psychological interrogations that actually turned into mental torture or abuse, don't give a crap what I think. Yes, you know it is because you're living it. You're in that prison because of whatever trauma you went through, brother. You got to access some of your benefits from the army, whatever it may be, your vet bit, whatever you can do to start working on some of this. Yes, absolutely. But absolutely, I agree with you that the prisons we put ourselves in, because Richard, you're probably thinking things like, oh, I'm never going to be able to heal any of this. I'm probably too old. And we talked about the, potentially using marijuana as a way to work on it. Absolutely. But again, remember dosing. You got to dose it because marijuana, the more powerful forms of marijuana have been associated with psychosis and paranoia and delusions. So thank you, Richard, for your exchange today. If I ever post anything on my page and people take exception, please engage with me. Engage with me. We don't need to insult each other, but just engage with me. And Fernando really kind of hit the nail on the head when I was talking about why I post things like that. He said, I like that you share these posts because I see an insight into the belief that when people have a position of power or fame, it should come with a sense of responsibility. Amen, brother. Amen. Although I understand we all have a choice whether to do or not to do things, I do believe we are connected socially and we should help each other. Amen, brother. Amen. Absolutely. Like I said to Richard before, I said, absolutely, people need to take responsibility for their actions. Absolutely. This is why I'm online. I'm online encouraging people to take responsibility for your mental illness and work on it. But the people who are doing the abuse, the people who are making things more difficult, the people who are negatively affecting each other, you all need to take responsibility for how you're affecting other people. This idea that, oh, I don't give an F and I don't have two Fs to give and it's your fault if you're hurt by what I say, all that does is let the abuser continue to abuse. Well, you shouldn't let what I say affect you as I keep punching you in the head. Bullshit, excuse my language. People need to take responsibility for how they're affecting each other. Absolutely. And people need to take responsibility for their own healing. So yes, this is why I'm bringing this up, because this post elicited this idea that Richard was saying, you shouldn't, you got to take responsibility. I can't, no. Yes, you do have to take responsibility, but people who are hurting other people need to take responsibility for how they're hurting people. Okay. So we have one question coming in from YouTube. A 45-year-old male and still suffer from body dysmorphia. So to hear what I would say to you is you took the first step tonight. Okay. You took the first step tonight. You're talking about it. You're accepting it and you're working on it. And I don't know if you caught the early part of the show, but obviously my belief is that most, if not all, of body dysmorphia is rooted in trauma or faulty conditioning. Faulty conditioning is maybe Dahir learned early on. I don't know. I think that's a female name, but I don't know. So I'm sorry if you're a male, but maybe Dahir was criticized by her dad or her mom or put down. Maybe you have a culture where being thin is more acceptable. You've got to get into Dahir. Why am I suffering from body dysmorphia? Why am I thinking I'm either fat or ugly or whatever it may be? I'm 45 years old. I should be over this. Keep thinking like that, and you'll never heal it. The only way to get over things, people, is to get into things. Okay, you got to get into them. You got to spend some time getting into it. So, okay, I'm a male, and culturally I look different. Okay, so there you go. That's what we need to look at. We need to look at what cultural conditioning is still affecting you. But, Dahir, I wish I had some more time. I got to run at 10. But what I would recommend for you, my brother, is you got to spend some time questioning. I call it questioning your conditioning. It's not going to heal right away, but you've got to slowly get into, why am I hating myself because I'm overweight? Where did I learn this? Why am I talking to myself this way? Why am I beating myself up for something that maybe I couldn't control? Maybe you have insulin resistance, or maybe you have something that causes you to be more being overweight. But you've got to get into the trauma that is still holding that body dysmorphia. Okay, but to hear it starts with, and I haven't seen you here before, but it starts with you taking the It's Okay pill. The It's Okay pill. It's okay that I'm 45. It's okay that I have these issues, and I'm going to start working on them. Okay. So feel free to send me some messages on this video on YouTube, and we can chat a little bit more. But you've got to start. You did it. Okay, great to hear. You're welcome. But you've got to say to yourself tonight, brother, when you look in the mirror, it's okay that I'm 45 and I still have this issue. I'm not going to do that self-bullying or whatever I went through. I'm going to start toning that down, and I'm going to work at that underlying trauma. Remember, guys, none of these broadcasts are about, boom, you're healed, boom, you're fixed. None of it is like that. This is about you beginning the process of healing and talking things out. Okay, so thank you for all your questions. Richard is saying, rest easy and sleep well, doc. I got to file another grievance and begin my healing and litigation process. Good. You got to start working on that trauma, brother. I think Severina had a follow-up here that I didn't get to. It is that what happened several times, that when I see me in person, they change their attitude from being interested to not. So that hurts. That sucks that people are that superficial. But Severina, move on. You don't need to own that judgment. You don't. You maybe call it out. Oh, it seems like you've changed. Call it out. That's not the right person for you. But Severina, sister, seriously, if you think you're too overweight and you need to lose some weight, do it for you. Do it because you want to do it. Look into some intermittent fasting. I've been doing this for over 10, 12 years when I saw something on PBS and I looked it up. But work on it, okay? So again, guys, thank you to hear. Shoot me some messages. I want to see you keep the ball rolling here, brother, okay? This is the time. Some reason, I don't know what your religious beliefs are, but maybe this is, whatever God you believe in, saying, okay, man, you're hating the image of God because you're a little overweight. We got to work on that, okay? Let's work on it. So I'll see you guys again. Remember, I'm on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm going to keep doing these as long as people log on. Please share this. Please talk about this. Remember, I'm here for you. This isn't just about me showing everybody how brilliant I am. This is about you talking about your mental health, because the first step in the healing process is you talking about how you feel. There's nothing wrong with having a degree of mental illness. We all have it. You got to work on it. Okay. So I'll see you Wednesday night. Please shoot me some questions or comments and we'll keep the ball rolling. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in. See you on Wednesday. Take it easy.